The courtroom was thick with tension, air stifling with anticipation. Judge Eleanor Carter, authoritative and imposing at 62, raised her polished wooden gavel high above her head, ready to pronounce a verdict that seemed inevitable. Ethan Ride, 36, sharp-eyed, dressed in a dark tailored suit, felt a desperate urgency rising within him. His pulse thundered as he gripped the edge of the defendant's table. Just before the gavel could descend, Ethan leaped to his feet, his voice resonating with urgent defiance. "Wait, Your Honor." Silence filled the courtroom instantly. Eleanor froze, irritation flickering across her stern expression. Prosecutor Margaret Shaw, mid-40s, poised with victory, almost within reach, narrowed her eyes suspiciously at Ethan. Taking a deep, shaky breath, Ethan continued boldly. "This trial is built on lies. Lies orchestrated by people in this very room." Gasps filled the courtroom, rippling through observers as Margaret's face twisted from shock to fury. Judge Eleanor slammed the gavel down with thunderous finality, the sharp echo marking a point of no return. Outside the courthouse, the once bustling hallways now hummed with whispers and tension. Ethan leaned heavily against the cold marble wall, chest rising and falling in sharp, uneven breaths. His trusted colleague, Clara Bennett, a sharp-minded legal analyst in her early 30s, with an aura of calm determination, approached him cautiously. "Ethan, do you understand what you just set in motion?" she asked, her voice low but urgent. Ethan's eyes, dark and weary, met hers with steely resolve. "I couldn't stay silent, Clara. This goes beyond the case. It's corruption eating away at the heart of justice." Clara glanced nervously down the hallway, voice dropping to a whisper. "You've made powerful enemies today. They won't forgive this." Ethan nodded slowly, the weight of his decision settling in. "Then we prepare for the battle that's about to begin." Margaret Shaw sat behind the large mahogany desk of her high-rise office, her posture rigid with simmering anger. The city skyline glimmered coldly through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the room. Her assistant, Jason Lee, a nervous man in his late 20s, hovered nearby, clutching a tablet. "Margaret, what if Ethan's claims have merit?" Jason asked hesitantly. Margaret's eyes narrowed, icy and unyielding. "Truth is what we make of it, Jason. If he thinks he can undermine me, he's gravely mistaken." She stood abruptly, pacing with a predatory grace. "Find out everything he has. I want it silenced before it spreads. Permanently." Jason swallowed hard but nodded. The cold gleam in Margaret's gaze promised no mercy. The cold fluorescent lights flickered weakly in the underground parking garage as Ethan hurried toward his car, senses heightened. Every footstep echoed ominously in the cavernous space. Suddenly, he froze, sensing a presence. From the shadows stepped Detective Sam Harper, late 40s, rugged but composed, eyes sharp and unreadable. "You're stepping into dangerous territory, Ethan," Sam said quietly, voice gravelly with warning. Ethan's gaze hardened, gripping the car door handle tightly. "Then help me expose them, or step aside and watch the rot spread." Harper studied him for a long moment, conflicted. "I'll be in touch," he finally said, disappearing back into the darkness, leaving Ethan alone with his mounting fears. Night had fallen, and Ethan sat alone in his sparse apartment, papers and digital evidence spread messily across the desk. The glow from a single desk lamp highlighted the exhaustion etched on his face. His phone buzzed sharply, screen lighting up with a chilling message. "You've crossed the line. Back off or lose everything." Ethan's jaw clenched, the flicker of defiance igniting in his eyes. He whispered to himself, "Too late for that now." He leaned back, the weight of the fight settling over him like a storm cloud. There was no turning back. The whistle had been blown, and the battle for truth was only beginning. The following morning, Ethan sat in a cramped coffee shop, his hands wrapped around a steaming cup, eyes distant yet focused. Clara slid into the seat opposite him, placing a folder thick with documents on the table. "This isn't just about the trial anymore," she said quietly. "It's about your entire career, your safety, and the truth buried beneath decades of deception." Ethan nodded, voice low but resolute. I never signed up for this fight, but now that I'm in, I'm not backing down. Clara glanced around nervously, lowering her voice. People you trusted are involved. This conspiracy runs deep. You need allies, and fast. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then let's find them. For justice, for truth, for everyone they've betrayed. The cafe buzzed softly around them. But in their bubble, a silent pact had been made. Late that afternoon, Ethan visited his childhood home, a modest suburban house with peeling paint and faded charm. He stood in the dim living room, memories flooding back, his mother's comforting voice, his father's distant figure. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you," Ethan whispered, touching a worn photograph on the mantel. The phone vibrated. Clara's message. "New lead. Someone inside the firm may be ready to talk." Ethan's eyes hardened. "If I'm going to win, I have to face the past, no matter how painful." The house seemed to breathe with secrets as he steeled himself, knowing this battle was more than legal, it was personal. Back at the law office, Ethan confronted Jessica Marlowe, a senior partner in her late 40s, known for her steely demeanor and sharp intellect. "Jessica, I need your help. This goes beyond ethics. It's a betrayal of everything we stand for," Ethan urged. Jessica's eyes flickered with conflicted pain. "You don't know what you're getting into, Ethan. This firm has secrets that could ruin us all." She paused, voice dropping to a whisper. "But if you're determined, I'll stand with you. Just know the cost may be higher than you imagine." Ethan nodded solemnly, the weight of fragile trust settling between them. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." That evening, Ethan sat across from his younger sister Lily, a spirited woman in her late 20s, at a quiet neighborhood diner. "Ethan, you're risking everything," she warned, voice trembling with concern. "Why put yourself through this?" Ethan reached across the table, gripping her hand firmly. "Because they took more than my career. They took Dad's reputation, our family's truth. I owe it to you, to him, to fight." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. "Just promise me you'll stay safe." Ethan smiled sadly. "I'll be careful. But some battles aren't about safety. They're about what's right." The diner's neon glow softened their resolve, binding their shared pain and hope. Later that night, Ethan sat at his desk, illuminated by the soft glow of a laptop screen, scrolling through hundreds of emails and documents, a labyrinth of hidden truths. Clara's voice echoed in his mind. "This is bigger than us." The weight of responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders, but so did a fierce determination. He whispered to the empty room, "If this conspiracy falls, it won't just be my name cleared. It will be justice for every victim they silenced." With steady hands, Ethan began drafting his next move, knowing the path ahead was fraught with danger, but unwavering in his resolve to see the truth exposed, no matter the cost. Tension soared in the firm's glass-walled conference room as Ethan laid out the evidence he had gathered. The room was thick with unease, partners shifting uncomfortably in their seats, some avoiding eye contact. Jessica Marlowe leaned forward, her voice low but urgent. "This implicates people at the highest levels. We're risking everything." Ethan's gaze hardened. "Ignoring it means becoming complicit. We have to act." Across the table, whispers erupted, some fearing the fallout, others sensing opportunity. Clara scanned the room, catching subtle glances of betrayal and doubt. "This isn't just about loyalty anymore," she said softly. "It's about survival, for justice and for ourselves." The fragile alliance was tested, cracks forming beneath mounting pressure. In a dimly lit bar, Margaret Shaw met privately with a shadowy figure, an influential judge known for his discretion and power. "Ethan Reed is unraveling everything we've built," Margaret hissed, voice dripping with menace. The judge sipped his drink, expression unreadable. "The law isn't always just," he murmured. "It's what we make it." Margaret's eyes glinted coldly. "Then make sure he faces consequences, publicly." The judge nodded slowly. "We'll tighten the noose. He won't see daylight." Outside, rain pattered on the windows, a fitting soundtrack for the dark pact forged inside. Ethan sat late in his office, the glow from his laptop casting a pale light on tired eyes. Clara burst in, breathless. "We've got a problem. Someone leaked our plans." Ethan's face darkened. "Who?" Clara shook her head. "Unknown, but the firm is turning against us. Emails deleted, files vanished." Ethan slammed his fist lightly on the desk. "They want to scare us off." His voice dropped to a deadly calm. "We have to move faster before they silence us permanently." Clara nodded, urgency sharp in her eyes. "We're not just fighting the law, we're fighting shadows." Ethan swallowed hard, knowing the coming days would test every ounce of their resolve. A secret meeting convened in a smoky back room of a downtown restaurant. Among the gathered, a disgruntled whistleblower from within the firm nervously revealed crucial information. "They're manipulating cases, fabricating evidence," he confessed, voice barely above a whisper. Ethan listened intently, heart pounding. "This changes everything," he said steadily. "But once we expose this, there's no turning back." Clara's eyes met Ethan's, resolve blazing. The room's shadows seemed to press closer as the weight of betrayal settled over them. The fight for truth was no longer just a legal battle. It was a war on deceit. In the dead of night, Ethan's phone rang sharply. A distorted voice warned, "Stop digging, or you'll disappear like the others." The line went dead. Ethan's hand trembled as he stared at the black screen, then clenched into a fist. This wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. The conspiracy had eyes everywhere. Yet, beneath the fear, a fierce flame of defiance blazed. He whispered to the empty room, "They can try to bury the truth, but I'm not afraid anymore. Not now." The silence that followed was heavy with danger and determination, the calm before a storm that would shake everything. The courtroom was packed, tension palpable as Ethan stepped forward with a new witness, Daniel Cooper, a former insider with shaky hands and a haunted gaze. "I've seen the hidden deals," Daniel confessed under oath, voice trembling but truthful. "Bribery, fabricated evidence, cover-ups. It's worse than anyone imagined." Gasps erupted. Margaret's cold smile faltered for the first time. Judge Eleanor's eyes narrowed, weighing every word. Ethan's heart pounded as Daniel revealed names, dates, and secrets meant to stay buried. The courtroom held its breath, suspended on the edge of upheaval. The conspiracy was unraveling, yet with every truth exposed, new dangers lurked in the shadows. That night, Ethan and Clara pored over Daniel's detailed files in the dim glow of their office. "This isn't just a leak, it's a dam breaking," Clara said, eyes wide. Suddenly, a message blinked on Ethan's phone. "You think you're safe? Think again." Panic flickered across Ethan's face, but he forced calm. "They're trying to scare us, but we're closer than ever." Clara nodded, voice firm. "Then we expose it all, before they can bury it again." Outside, city lights flickered as shadows lengthened. The stakes had risen far beyond courtroom drama. They were fighting a ruthless network with nothing left to lose. Unexpectedly, a trusted ally betrayed Ethan. Jessica Marlowe's icy voice cut through the tension. "I can't risk my career on your crusade," she said coldly, stepping back into shadows. "You're on your own now." Ethan's shock was sharp, betrayal like a knife twisting. Clara's gaze darkened. "We'll find another way." But the fracture was deep, and the firm's walls closed in tighter. Every step forward was met with opposition, every ally questioned. The battle was no longer just against the conspiracy. It was against the very people meant to uphold justice. The trial took an unexpected turn when new evidence surfaced. A hidden video recording that revealed courtroom bribery involving a high-ranking official. The footage played, grim and undeniable, silencing the room. Ethan's voice rose above the stunned silence. "This is the proof we needed." Margaret's face drained of color as the judge demanded immediate investigation. The revelation shattered the fragile veneer of order. The conspiracy's reach was now fully exposed. Yet with victory so close, a chilling realization dawned. Unseen eyes were watching, waiting to strike back with lethal precision. That night, Ethan sat alone in a secluded park, shadows stretching long under flickering streetlights. His phone vibrated again. Another anonymous threat, Last warning. The weight of the fight pressed heavy on his shoulders, but his resolve burned brighter. They want me afraid, he muttered, voice steady despite the storm inside. But fear will not silence me. His gaze drifted upward to the cold stars, determination solidifying into ironclad will. The conspiracy was vast, the enemies relentless, but so was his hunger for justice. Tomorrow would bring the ultimate confrontation, and Ethan was ready to face whatever hell awaited. The courtroom was charged with electricity as Ethan stepped to the podium, ready to deliver the final argument. His voice rang clear and unwavering. This conspiracy is not just a betrayal of law, it's a crime against every person who believes in justice. Eyes locked on him, the gallery silent in anticipation. Margaret's gaze burned cold, her lips pressed thin in defiance. Ethan paused, letting the weight of his words settle, then continued. Today we stand not just to expose corruption, but to reclaim truth. For every silenced voice, for every stolen case, this is our reckoning. The judge's stern eyes surveyed the courtroom as murmurs rippled. The verdict would decide more than a trial, it would decide the future of justice itself. Margaret rose for her rebuttal, her voice sharp as a blade. Mr. Reed's theatrics do not change facts. This case is built on lies and circumstantial evidence. Her eyes flickered briefly to the jury, then hardened. The law is a shield for truth, not a weapon for vendettas. To convict on unproven claims would undermine the very system we serve. Yet beneath her calm tension simmered, her empire teetering on the edge. Ethan watched, knowing this fight was far from over. The courtroom held its breath as Margaret's words hung in the balance, part shield, part desperate plea. As the jury deliberated, Ethan sat alone in a quiet hallway, mind racing. Clara joined him, voice soft but urgent. Win or lose, this changes everything. The truth is out. Ethan's fingers clenched into fists. It has to be, for those who can't fight. Suddenly, a message pinged on his phone. An anonymous tip. Evidence planted. Check the security footage. The room seemed to close in. The conspiracy's reach was deeper than they knew, but this was the opening they needed. Ethan's eyes hardened with renewed purpose. We're not done yet. Clara nodded, ready for the storm to come. Reviewing security footage in a cramped office, Ethan and Clara watched as a figure suspiciously tampered with evidence storage. It's Jessica, Clara whispered, shock and betrayal in her voice. Ethan's breath caught. She's been playing both sides. The revelation stung deeply. One more betrayal in a sea of deceit. We need to confront her, Ethan said, voice cold with resolve. This ends now. The ticking clock outside marked the narrowing window to stop the conspiracy before it consumed them all. Their fight for justice had entered its most dangerous phase. No more room for doubt or mercy. Confronting Jessica in a tense private meeting, Ethan's voice was steady but fierce. Why betray us? Why risk everything? Jessica's expression was cold, regret mingling with defiance. Sometimes survival means choosing the lesser evil, she said softly. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Your choices hurt innocent people. The room crackled with raw emotion. Betrayal, regret, and the harsh truths of a battle fought in shadows. Jessica paused and whispered, The conspiracy is bigger than any of us, but it's crumbling. Ethan's voice hardened. Then we finish it, no matter the cost. The fragile alliance shattered, but their resolve to end the corruption burned brighter than ever. The courtroom was packed once again as the final verdict was about to be read. Ethan stood rigid, heart pounding, every muscle taut with anticipation. Judge Eleanor's voice rang out, steady and solemn. After careful consideration of all evidence, this court finds. A hush fell over the room. Ethan's eyes searched the faces around him, Clara's encouraging nod, Margaret's steely glare, Jessica's avoidance of eye contact. The judge's words pierced the silence, guilty. A surge of relief washed over Ethan, but it was tempered by the heavy cost. Justice had been served, but the battlefield was littered with fractured lives and broken trust. The room seemed to exhale. but Ethan knew the scars would linger long after the gavel's echo. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed like a storm, cameras flashing as Ethan emerged. Faces crowded around him, questions shouted in rapid fire. Ethan's voice was calm but firm. This verdict is a victory for truth, but it's only the beginning. Clara stood close, her eyes scanning the crowd protectively. Margaret passed by silently, her expression unreadable, shadows of defeat and calculation mixing. Ethan knew this win had shaken the foundations, but enemies still lurked, waiting. The battle for justice was far from over. This was the dawn of a new, uncertain era. In a quiet office, Jessica sat alone, her face etched with regret and exhaustion. The fight had taken everything from her: trust, reputation, peace. She stared at the courtroom photo on her desk, whispering, "I did what I thought was right, but the cost was steep." Meanwhile, Ethan and Clara reviewed the aftermath. Cases reopened, reforms proposed. "We've ignited change," Clara said softly. Ethan nodded, weary but hopeful. Justice is fragile. It needs protectors. They knew the path ahead was uncertain, but for now, they could breathe, if only for a moment. Late one evening, Ethan walked through the empty courthouse halls, shadows stretching long. Memories of the battle echoed in every step, the betrayals, the victories, the losses. Clara's voice broke the silence over a phone call. "Ethan, people believe now. Change is possible." He paused, voice quiet but firm. "It has to be, for those who fought in silence." The building's cold walls seemed less oppressive now, holding stories of resilience and courage. The fight was far from over, but the seeds of hope had been sown. Ethan's eyes reflected the faint glow of a new dawn, unfinished but promising. At his apartment, Ethan finally allowed himself a moment of stillness. The city lights flickered through the window as he stared at a photo of his family. The scars of the fight were deep, but so was his resolve. Clara's earlier words echoed in his mind. "Justice needs protectors." Ethan whispered softly, "I will be one." His phone buzzed. A new message, this time just 2 words. "Thank you." A small smile broke through the weariness. The war for truth was ongoing, but for now, Ethan had won a precious victory, and with it, a renewed purpose to face whatever lay ahead. Months later, Ethan stood at a memorial service for those lost to corruption, quiet faces illuminated by flickering candles. Clara stood beside him, her voice steady as she recited names, each one a reminder of the cost of truth. Ethan's heart ached with every syllable. "We fought hard, but the fight is never truly over," he whispered. Around them, the crowd bowed their heads in solemn respect, the air heavy with grief and resolve. In this fragile peace, Ethan felt the weight of survival, and the unyielding call to keep pushing. Justice had been wrested from shadows, but darkness lingered. The final battle was past, but the war for true justice stretched ahead. In a quiet office, Ethan reviewed new case files, evidence of fresh corruption. Clara entered silently, handing him a steaming cup of coffee. "They're still out there," she said softly. Ethan's gaze lifted, eyes weary but resolute. "Then we keep fighting, every day, every case." Clara smiled faintly. "Justice isn't a destination. It's a journey." Ethan nodded, voice low and determined, "And this time we'll be ready." Outside the window, dawn's first light crept across the city skyline, signaling both an end and a beginning. The fight continued, but so did hope. A late-night phone call shattered the calm. An unknown voice whispered, "You've stirred something that can't be stopped." Ethan's grip tightened around the receiver, pulse quickening. "I'm not afraid," he said quietly. Silence answered before the line went dead. He stared into the darkness, the weight of unseen threats pressing in. Yet beneath the fear was an unbreakable resolve. "Bring it on," he murmured. The shadows around him flickered, the final warning echoing. This was no longer just a fight for justice, but a war against relentless darkness. As dawn broke over the city, Ethan stepped out onto a rooftop, the wind stirring his coat. Clara joined silently, eyes scanning the horizon. "What now?" she asked softly. Ethan's gaze was distant but firm. "Now we watch. We listen. We prepare." He turned, voice steady but heavy with unspoken burdens. "Because truth is fragile, and the fight never truly ends." The rising sun bathed them in pale gold, a fragile promise amid uncertainty. Their silhouettes stood strong against the skyline, warriors in an endless battle, bound by purpose and sacrifice. In the stillness of the morning, Ethan's phone buzzed one last time. A simple message: "The truth will find its way." He stared at the screen, breath steady, eyes reflecting hard-won wisdom. As he pocketed the phone, his voice barely more than a whisper echoed through the quiet room. "Justice isn't won with a gavel. It's earned in the silence between battles." The city stirred outside, unaware of the quiet resolve within these walls. Ethan's fight was far from over, but in that moment, a haunting silence settled, an unspoken vow to keep the flame alive, no matter the cost.